All right, awesome. Thank you so much. Welcome at Tools for Agile Teams. I love the title of the conference, by the way. I have always had a little bit of issues with the idea of individuals and interactions over processes and tools. No, seriously, because it is very, very hard to have meaningful interactions without tools. I am using a tool right now. It's a standardized tool called the English language. Thanks for that. I would have to talk German, speak German. That would be very hard for me, I can tell you. So anyways, yes, it is a good topic to discuss. Oh, we have to do something about this because it shows my background. And of course, that's because we switched. Always the same thing. As we said this morning, never change a working program. It worked this morning. There we go. Yes, that's what I want. So yeah, you heard what I'm famous for is that Management 3.0 book in the beginning. That was my first book that I wrote about the role of the Agile leader in organizations. I wrote this little book, How to Change the World as a Self-Publishing Experiment. You can get it for free when you go to that URL. You subscribe to my mailing list, download the book, and unsubscribe. Easy. Anyone can do that. It's simple, right? Simple. And then Managing for Happiness is not the last one, because this is the last one, and I will tell you a little bit more about that. But first, this picture is one of my favorites. I am so old that I know what happened over there off screen. The 80s is my favorite era of music, with my Walkman and 13 songs on each side of the cassette, and you had to turn it around, and oops, the tape got stuck, and you had to use a pinky finger or a pencil to get it back in the cassette. You know that? Exactly. And then CDs became big. A little bit of patriotism there. Philips played a big role, Dutch company. And then something happened in 1999. What happened in 1999? Does anyone remember? Napster happened. Illegal downloads of MP3s, yes, and then revenues collapsed in the industry. Now, the experts disagree on what exactly the impact was from illegal downloads, because they said, those people are not buying CDs anyways. Okay, but then what else happened at exactly the same moment? Something was going on in the industry, for sure. So, of course, the executives panicked, but then we had legal downloads with iTunes and then Spotify, Deezer, and all those streaming platforms. You can see that so much has changed in such a small amount of time. And this is normal nowadays. You see that in every industry, whether it is banking or the car industry or whatever. There's so much change. It's unbelievable. And this is called the innovator's dilemma. Clayton Christensen is famous for writing about this concept of these leaders in the industry who innovate over time. CDs did get better. They were working on that at Philips. But in the meantime, the disruptors start from a different point with worse quality music. That was low bit rates of music that you downloaded through the internet, and you had to wait for an hour. And then it was the Portuguese version. Oh, you had to start all over. That was annoying, but it was also fun. And then the disruptors catch up with the leaders, basically. And what executives and managers and many people want is they want both. They want on the one hand, they want to execute the current business model. They want to optimize for the current revenues, and that requires some centralization. It requires some specialization because you have to drive down costs, etc. But on the other hand, we want exploration for new products and new innovative ideas. Explore stuff. How can we have it both? How can we have our cake and eat it, as the British say? We want it both. We want to be in the EU and outside of it. We want it all. It's a very typical British approach. So how can we be a scale-up and at the same time also be a startup? That is the golden question, basically. Well, some people have tried. I was part of an innovation steering committee once. That was fun. Maybe some of you know these kinds of committees. It meant that, sorry, I'm still struggling with the cold. It meant that I was part of a committee of 3 or 4 people, me, CIO, there was a CTO, there was a marketing manager, there was an idea box that people sent their ideas to. Then we looked at the first idea in the idea box and we said, didn't make any sense. Next idea, that makes sense, and it's €1 billion. We cannot afford that, sorry. Next idea, and then, oops, the idea box was empty. And the people in the company, they were not very happy with the innovation committee. You're rejecting all our ideas. And we said, you should submit better ideas. This is all crap. It didn't work. It really did not work. And then some companies have these R&D center or innovation hubs that they preferably launch elsewhere. Otherwise, the innovation center is killed by the current company. So they put them in another city, somewhere else. And then you recognize them because they have fluffy pillows and colorful walls and Aeron chairs, and everything looks very modern and creative. And then the mother organization complains that there's nothing ever coming out of the innovation center. They're all playing, and there's lots of creative stuff and lots of Lego Serious Play going on there, but I haven't seen a product for years coming out of that innovation center. So that is a bit of an issue. And then people do hackathons. Great idea. I've described it in my book, Managing for Happiness. Exploration days, ship it days, innovation days, all the same thing. Great, 24 hours of experimentation. But then people have said to me, Jurgen, after that exploration day, nothing happened. We had great ideas and lots of good stuff, and then it was business as usual the next day. It was completely used as exercise, basically. So it is also not enough. What can we do? And then, ooh, these tools, lots of tools. I'm going to show you plenty of tools in these 45 minutes I show you. So I'm sure you could recognize some of these pictures. There's one thing that is common among all these pictures. None of them solve the innovator's dilemma. Not a single one shows you how to be a scale-up, exploiting your current business model, making money, and at the same time be a disruptor, come up with innovative ideas. How to do that both. It's not there. They're great tools, but they don't solve that problem. Well, I'm going to solve the problem today, this morning. Yep, you will be so happy. Yeah, don't applaud yet. Wait till the end. So it involves 3 keys, and for the first key, we're going to look at some of the disruptors that we have in Europe. We can be proud in Europe of the disruptors that we have. I went around Europe and spoke at people at Spotify in Stockholm, at TransferWise in Tallinn, Typeform in Barcelona. Everyone always talks about Airbnb. Oh, such a crazy, wonderful company over there. Did you know that Booking is 5 times bigger than Airbnb, and they're Dutch. So there you go. Anywho, what I recognize across all the disruptors, I talk with CIOs and Agile coaches and HR people and so. There's a common language of startups and scale-ups. They talk in the same way, and they always talk about the maturity stages of their business ideas. And usually an idea starts with someone having a vision.
iPod, 1,000 songs in your pocket.
Remember that? 1,000 songs in your pocket. I had just 25 songs in my pocket at the time. So 1,000 songs was like, whoa, that's amazing. Now my kids are like, 1 billion songs in my pocket and my favorite album is still not there. Spotify sucks. So apparently requirements have evolved. But anyways, product vision is something that it usually starts with. Someone has a light bulb idea. That's the first stage, an idea, an under the shower moment or whatever. And then we get to stage 2. We should explore whether the idea makes sense. This stage is often skipped by many naive startup founders, many naive innovators. They go right to implementation. I think the blockchain cryptocurrency world has suffered in particular from this problem. They had this new technology and they started coding right away, imagining all the ideas that they would be solving. No exploration, no testing at all. They call that problem solution fit in the startup scene. Is your solution solving a problem? You have to test that before investing any money in product development. You can do that by running tests, by experimenting, yet another tool, minimal viable products. So, for example, if you have the idea of starting a coffee bar somewhere, you could run a test. You could say, well, I think my new coffee bar, the best location for that is in Side Street, just off Main Street, but I'm not sure. I'm going to run a test. I will sell coffee from a mobile coffee cart, just like the one around the corner there. I will stand in the street for one day, and if I sell more than 50 coffees per day, I have validated that there's probably enough demand. If I don't sell any coffee, then this is the wrong place to be. Yay, I win, because I have just prevented investing in the wrong place. I don't need to get myself a shop there. I should try another street. I know actually a mobile coffee cart in Brussels where they did this. They went around the city and they tested various spots. And they ended up at a very crucial point just between a student campus and a metro station. That was like the perfect spot that they found. That took them a few months. So that is testing that you need to do. And then the next stage is formation. Suppose you have validated that there is a need for your product. Now you need to form a team. You need money, probably. You need a budget from your CEO, or you need capital from your angel investors. You will need co-founders, vision founders fit. This is often referred to. And at this point, you can probably start canvassing. The lean canvas is a popular tool, adapted from the business model canvas, which to me is just a set of boxes with experiments to try. You have to do experiments in the problem area, experiments in the channels area, experiments with revenue streams. You experiment the hell out of everything, just testing whether your business model is making any sense. And then we move on and we go to one of the most difficult stages. They call that product market fit in the startup language. Can you now make a product that people actually want to use? Because if I notice myself, it is very easy to get false positives during problem solution fit. People say, oh, I love that idea. Yeah, I'm signing up. Kickstarter is full of those ideas of products that don't exist, by the way. Right? People sign up to ideas that have not been developed yet. But it's very easy for people to say, yeah, I love that idea, but once you have a product, they're not using it. Jesus. Yeah, they're not coming. That is product market fit failing then. People really need to use the product, and there you have to test and iterate the hell out of product development. At Apple, this was all done internally, of course. I do not advise that, because Steve Jobs was really good at being a proxy for the market, because he was very good at understanding what people wanted and needed. But you should test with the real market. By the way, this is the first picture the oldest picture I could find of the iPod. I have no pictures of the prototyping process. I heard one amazing story of the product team coming to Steve Jobs with yet another iteration of the iPod, and he looked at it and said, it's too big, still too big. And they said, but this is as thin as we can make it. They knew his preference for small and thin. No, it's too clunky, it's still big. No, we can make it smaller. Said, well, let's see. And he walked to an aquarium, and he dropped the iPod prototype in an aquarium. And then bubbles came out. He said, look, there's air in there. Get it out. And off they went. Make sure he was right, they were wrong. I love that. So product market fit, you do that with your customers, the testing, and then we move on to the next stage, which is also often skipped. I heard that one of the main problems in the startup scene is that startups and innovators rush from a successful product that people actually love to scaling up. You're too soon when you do that, usually. Many startups fail because they scale up too early for various reasons. One is, if you did things well, you faked everything in the back end. You just focused on the customer-facing stuff. Everything in the back end is a complete disaster. It's chaos. You have technical debt going through the roof. You have systems that are not integrated. Everything is manual. Your team is going nuts, basically. You have to fix all that. Fix all that first in that transitionary period. Another problem you have to address is you're moving to a different audience. In the beginning, you work with early adopters, innovators. They love you for your ideas. They don't mind a bug or two. In fact, they feel proud when they're the first ones to find a bug, and then they will report it to you. Yeah, I was the one who found it. That feels like a badge of honor. And then you move to the early majority in the next stage. They don't want to see bugs. If they find a bug, they will not report it to you. They will report it to all their friends on Facebook. That's how I am usually, right? I'm like the early majority, not the innovators. Let other people do that innovative stuff. So you have to prepare with customer support and quality assurance, etc., etc. That easily takes up another 2 years of your time, one of the investors told me. That's stabilization, business market fit. Is your whole business now ready for the market? And you could probably switch from a lean canvas to the business model canvas by now, because the business model canvas has a couple of other boxes like your key partnerships, your key activities and resources. All of that is only known after product market fit. No partner is interested in your product when the product doesn't work. They will wait until your product actually works in stage 5, and then they're interested in running experiments. And now your business grows up, your business model grows up. By the way, the pictures that you see are the pictures of my mother growing up. She's so proud that she's in my presentation. She spent the whole weekend going through all her photo albums, finding the perfect shots from all her life cycle stages. And she's smiling in everyone. And this is my favorite, because you can see on the look on her face that when she was a teenager, she discovered new possibilities as a human being. We all remember those years, right? Yeah. Well, it's the same for business models. You now become an adult. The rules are going to change. One thing that is different now, you can start growth hacking. I made the mistake of sending my team to a growth hacking course. Growth hacking is about endlessly tweaking the messaging, the colors, the buttons, and all kinds of things around the product and the marketing to optimize the conversion rates. The premise is you need to have something that works in principle to optimize. If it doesn't work, if the product doesn't work, it makes no sense to growth hack it. And our team was in product market fit stage. The product didn't work. It's like trying to multiply by 1,000 something that is still 0. The end result is, well, I don't have to explain that. Right? I had to learn that as a founder. And then fast forward, stage 7, you've cornered the market with your business model. You're now number 1. Basically, Spotify is now in stage 7. They have reported profits for a couple of quarters. Good for them. Some people did not expect that they would ever achieve that. So they're now the recognized leader in that industry. Stage 8, midlife crisis. Yep. This is where you try to be youthful by using lots of colors in the way you dress, for example. When a product appears in lots of colors, you know that the end is in sight, right? They ran out of ideas. What shall we do now? Let's make a pink version. Why not the entire rainbow? Well, amazing idea. Let's go. Let's do that. That is typical for stage 8, midlife crisis. Stage 9, okay, let's recognize there's nothing left to do. The business model is just costing us money, basically, but we keep it alive, up and running. It's too early to wind it down. And then stage 10, okay, it is over. We make it a project to offboard everyone. We're not going to support the product anymore. And this is a typical life cycle of any business model, any product, any service. Sometimes it takes a few years. Sometimes it takes decades or a century, but it always goes through this curve. This is the curve of the iPod. You can see that they started in 2000. That was over here, Steve Jobs dropping it in an aquarium. And then over here, stage 5, stage 6, rapid scaling, stage 7 with the leader, stage 8, oh my God, what do we do? And let's make a pink version, and then 9, 10, dead. Anyone still has an iPod? Over there, 1, 2, 3, all right, awesome, hold on to, they are becoming more valuable very soon, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, that was the iPod. I learned that different rules, different tools apply to different stages. So this is a picture, a fashionable picture of me and my family when I was young. Look at the sexy pants that I had. I was the one who started that trend over there. Yeah. And this is my little brother, Jeroen, a rascal. He was always planning something devious. You can see that on his face. Yeah, my little brother. He thought it was unfair. He said to me, unfair that Jurgen is allowed to come home anytime he wants, and I have to be home at 6. It's not fair, he told my mother. Well, first of all, my mom said, Jurgen is 3 years older. He's in a different life cycle stage, so duh. And second, maybe you can get the same rules as Jurgen if, at least for a year, I don't have to pick you up from the police station anymore. Yeah, that's my little brother. He's okay now, by the way. He's okay now. So, to give you a concrete example, OKRs are all the rage these days in the Agile world. I'm sure you've heard of objectives and key results. I'm not going to explain what they are. Did you know what? In the startup scene, nobody talks about OKRs. Not a single person I heard referencing objectives and key results. They all talk about the North Star metric. It is a simpler goal-setting framework. The one metric that rules them all. What is the one thing that we try to optimize now as a team in the next couple of weeks or months? It can change the North Star every now and then, like OKRs, but we need laser focus with the self-organized teams. It works great with a small team. It doesn't work for a big company. So why not do both? It makes sense for me if you have a small startup team, also in a larger company, that as young ones, they do the simple stuff. Let's do North Star metric. People understand that. It doesn't take like a year to implement. But once they become adults, they join the other adults in the family, in the company, and then we will expect OKRs from them. That kind of thinking makes sense. Why should everyone play with the same tools? Why should everyone have the same rules in the family, in the business? So different rules, different ages, different practices. And that's the first key to solving the innovator's dilemma. Recognize that the family members, the business models in the company are in different life cycle stages. And the tools that you use depend on the life cycle stage that they are in. Do not treat the babies as if they are adults. And they're not the same as the senior citizens. We all have different practices that need to work well in their context. Next. Here's another favorite tool for some people, design thinking. I very often came across this picture that some of you might recognize by Stanford D School, and IDEO has popularized it as well. Design thinking is famous for the empathizing part of product design. Understand what people need. Don't just listen to what they say that they want, but look at what they're doing. There's this other picture of the Design Council in the UK. I love all the design thinking stuff. Seriously, I love it. I love the books. I talk with design thinkers. There's just one thing that I hate, which is these two pictures. Do you know why? It's a line. It's linear. It looks sequential. It very much looks like, okay, well, let's do empathizing in November, and then we can do defining before Christmas, and then in January we'll do ideation, and then prototyping, maybe we can test in February, and then we're done, yay. That is waterfall again. This is typically how naive people who do not understand design thinking interpret this. This has been reported to me at the misunderstanding. It's the same thing happening again. So the picture sends the wrong message. Design thinking is awesome. This is just the design of the picture. It's awful. So I tell them, you're designers. You should understand this. My God. And then there's this picture, the Lean Startup process. I love Lean Startup as well. It's a circle. Wow, that's great. But there's another thing that is a problem with this picture. Build, measure, learn. Build what? Where do the ideas come from? Do they come falling out of the sky? No, the lean startups say, get out of the building, look at what people are doing. Same as design thinking, makes no difference, just coming from a different angle, but they mean the same thing. And then I tell, well, then why is that not in the picture? It just says start, build, and test and learn. So I merge the models, that's where I come in. I'm really good at stealing stuff, the Mojito method, merging things from different sources, standing on the shoulders of giants and those metaphors. And then I come up with just a different picture. I thought I need a different picture. That makes more sense to me. I like the fact that Lean Startup has this learn step distinguished, that they don't really mention that in the design thinking pictures. But Lean Startup misses the first half, which they do have in design thinking, and they all miss one thing, which is context. They call that framing in design thinking. I cannot empathize with 8 billion people. I have to choose which people to empathize with. That is also a bit of work. Deciding which place you want to occupy in the universe. So I call that context, and I turn it into something that is circular and colorful, because I am in my midlife crisis, so it needs to have color. And I thought, I looked in the dictionary, because I hate the word circle. Circle is boring. I don't want 7 bubbles in a row. That's just nonsense. And then I found the word vortex, and I thought, yeah, I love vortex. It sounds like tornadoes and whirlwinds and total mess and anarchy, and that's the kind of thing that I want to express, because that's what design thinkers tell me. My work is a mess. I do everything all the time. Yes, I do all that stuff, but not in an orderly fashion. That's not how my work is. And that is what the vortex hopefully communicates, that it can be a messy process as long as you do everything at some point. Some examples, empathy mapping is a popular tool. I'm sure some of you have seen it before. This is a picture that my team made a couple of months ago. You just fill a wall with all your ideas and things that you saw customers doing and what they talk about and what they are thinking probably, etc. This is the empathizing stream of the vortex. And then the synthesizing stream is lean personas, for example. You then distill all that information into a definition of the ideal customer that you want to work with. My customer is Mark. He loves coffee, commutes to his work in Amsterdam, but there's no decent coffee bar. That is a problem for Mark. That is a description. We now understand the person, and it turns out that lean personas are easier for product teams to work with than a bunch of statistical information. And then the job to be done. What is it exactly that Mark needs? Mark says he wants good coffee, but is that really what he needs? What people say is often not what they actually need. You should not just listen to customers. So when I go to a coffee bar, I always say, I want good coffee. But if you look at what I'm doing, and I go to a coffee bar and there is no seats, I cannot sit there, then I will not buy a coffee because I need to work there for 2 hours. Starbucks has called this the third place. To be able to sit in a comfortable space with Wi-Fi and everything, and then drink decent enough coffee. So they call that the third place. That is the real need. This is not how I communicate it, but that is actually what I'm doing. So that is the job to be done, figuring that out. What is the real need of the customer? They are often not able to articulate themselves. And then you can use a value proposition canvas, for example, to connect everything. Because on the one hand, we have our lean personas and their job to be done. On the other hand, we have our product vision, what we want to make in the first place. And that needs to connect in the middle. Right? That needs to turn into features and ideas. Your product backlog emerges here in the middle, right? With all the ideas and the hypotheses that you should be testing. Is this working for them? Is this working for them? And on it goes. I have a lean experiment template helping people if they want, coming up with those hypotheses. I showed it earlier with the coffee example. All of that fits on this side of the innovation vortex. Empathizing, synthesizing, hypothesizing. It's lean startup, it's design thinking. I don't care what word you use, it's the same thinking. I just prefer my picture over the other pictures. And then another example, one of my favorites. I did some journey mapping with my team. This is figuring out if the product that you have, the service that you offer, is enabling the journey that customers and users should have. And what are the touch points where they get in contact with your product or service? So, for example, many coffee bars do not realize that my first touch point with them is Google Maps. I'm in a strange city, I want coffee, I go to Google Maps, coffee, sort by distance, top rated, open now, and then I start walking to the nearest that mentions barista or self-ground beans or whatever. So I walk. I go to a coffee bar, no coffee bar. What the? I had that 2 days ago again in Warsaw. Okay, that is a what the F moment, right? That's my first touch point with the coffee bar. Okay, sorry, you lost the customer. You do not realize that your address details need to be correct on Google Maps. So I picked the next one, 15-minute walk, closed for the holidays. Okay, next one, Starbucks, anything is fine as long as you offer me coffee and a place to sit. So I go 5-minute walk, next one, it is open. I see fancy espresso machine, oh, that looks great. I see people sitting there with their computers, oh, this is going to be a lovely 2 hours, I'm pretty sure. I order my cafe latte, and I get a latte macchiato. What the Okay. For those in the audience who do not understand the difference, and this is particularly important in Germany, I have noticed, here we go. Over there, the latte macchiato, it is an Italian invention. It is usually warm milk in a glass, as they do correctly over there around the corner. Hot milk first, and then you throw in the espresso. It literally means stained milk, the milk with the stain of the espresso that you throw in. This is how Italians teach babies how to drink coffee, basically. Now, on the other hand, we have the cafe latte. It is an American invention. It's because the Americans were used to drinking brown water, basically. And then when the cappuccinos were introduced, they said, oh, this is very strong, this is very strong. So the Italians made the cups bigger and just threw in more milk, and then you have the milky coffee, the milk cafe, the wrong coffee, the cafe latte. It's all basically the same thing. The milk comes last. And then you can make latte art, yay! That's a wow moment. Teach your barista to make latte art. That's Instagrammable, right? There's nothing Instagrammable about a latte macchiato. Try making latte art with that. You can't. So order cafe latte, I get a latte macchiato. I said, that's not a cafe latte. And the barista says to me, that's the same thing. And then I tell the barista, well, if that's the same thing, then a barista is the same as a plumber. You obviously don't care about the order of the fluids, which is crucial. So, coffee with milk is not milk with coffee. That's the highlight of this morning, by the way. Thank you, bye. I'm on a mission in Europe here. I'm going to teach this continent how to do this correctly. So where does journey mapping, figuring out these wow moments and these what the F moments, when do customers experience them, all of that sits on that side. Sensing what is happening with my product, with how I offer it, and then learning from that. And then the vortex continues and continues, it never stops. I have a fancy self-assessment tool that people can download. You can get a URL at the end. Well, you just try to give yourself points for covering the entire vortex. I don't care about the order in which you do things. I don't care about discrete steps, as long as you try to cover the entire vortex in your own anarchistic way of doing your job. And then we see that we have disruptive innovation on this side. sustaining innovation on that side, because the innovation vortex never stops. It is always spinning. In the beginning, it's very small with a self-organizing, cross-functional startup team working on a new idea. But the older the business gets, the more slowly it will innovate. It will still innovate. I am still learning as an elderly person, but it's just more slowly than my kids, right? That's very normal. I'm still trying to learn, and the same for businesses. So that's the second key to solving the innovator's dilemma, is gradually shift from being disruptive to being sustaining in the kind of innovation that you have. You do it both, but it depends on where you are in the life cycle stage of your business model. Last part, last key. So I was part of this innovation committee, and what I did wrong was I tried to predict which idea was going to be a winner out of the idea box. I was uncertain. I felt scared, basically, committing to one of the ideas, because once we committed to an idea, we would have the responsibility of following up and guiding it and developing it until launch date. So I prefer to say no to everything. My God, suppose I had said yes to a terrible idea. I don't want that responsibility. So that's never going to work. The much better approach is explained very well by Robert Cooper in this video, where he uses a really, really good metaphor.
The first thing to remember is it's a bit like playing poker. When you sit down at the poker table and you start betting, you don't put all your money on the table. You put maybe $2 or €2, and you get a few cards. And then you bet a little bit more money, and you get a few more cards and more information. In other words, new product projects, you never bet all the money at the beginning. It's a stepwise process. It's an incremental commitment. As you learn more, you bet more.
This is crucial. With new product development, you never bet all the money in the beginning. It's like playing poker. You don't have all the information. So go out there and get the information. That's what poker players do. That's what anyone involved in risk management does. So bet a little bit of money, and then a little bit more. And the earlier you see that it's not working, the better. This is exactly how the startup world works. Lots of startups start in stage 1, and then the investors decide, based on the evidence that they have accumulated, whether or not they get a budget for the next stage. And the budgets get bigger and bigger over time. That's exactly what is happening. So it's not a pipeline of ideas, it's a funnel of ideas. It's like a game that we play. It's like Game of Thrones. In season 1, we have all these candidates for the Iron Throne, and then season by season, more and more families are killed off. Until by the end, we have just a few of the best ones remaining. Many games work like that.
Come on! Upside, inside out. She's living la vida loca. She'll push and pull you down.
It sounded like 2 3-year-olds who've got flu trying to sing.
I love Simon Cowell. His insults are much better than anything I can come up with. But this is like Innovation Board 3.0. What you need to have is not a committee choosing the ideas. No, you need a committee saying all the ideas, go ahead, do it. But then you have this program, defined program with stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the further they get, the more you kill. Just one by one, they're all killed off. That's what the startup world does naturally, because it is an ecosystem that has evolved this way. This is what these program makers have designed. You can design this in your company. What happens after the hackathon? Hackathon is perfect for stage 1. Then what? If you have not defined what stage 2 looks like, and stage 3, everything will die. So that is the tool that you need to evolve. Your own great game of business. Make your own Game of Thrones. Make your own X Factor, or whatever you call it in your business. All the ideas are allowed to start. And the further they get, the bigger the budgets. So how can we get a startup culture? At the same time, don't lose our scale-up culture. Well, forgive me, I'm still working on this visual, okay? It's a work in progress, I admit. but the information is there. We have this funnel of ideas. Everyone can start with a hackathon or something at stage 1, but then you need to have defined stages for what is happening next. What will happen in stage 2? What will happen in stage 3? We need to have gatekeepers, the innovation board's equivalents, or the investors' equivalents, who decide, you can go to the next stage. Sorry, you can't, because we have only these number of slots per stage. And we look at your evidence, your validated learning, as we call it in Lean Startup. What have you been able to prove with your Lean experiments? And the further you get, the more adult the businesses get. And by the time they get here, they're part of the adults of the family. They take care of everyone. They pay for everyone. So I call this how to fix your failed agile transformation, because I've noticed that all around the world, people complaining about their agile transformations and not working, etc. I think one of the key problems is that everyone is treated the same. And that is wrong. Because how you treat your family members should depend on where they are in their life cycle. We do not treat the kids the same as the adults, the same as the senior citizens. We should have respect for the adults. They pay for everyone. I find some of the language among agile coaches and consultants a little bit too disrespectful to the ones who pay all the bills. Yes, the elderly in the family have to change their behaviors. They need to be more agile in their midlife crisis to survive for a bit longer. But they can never be kids again. That's okay. Just use their money to invest in the younger generation, and they can be truly agile and truly lean and design thinking, because they start at the beginning. This is where your true cultural change will happen over here. Just don't bother too much with the ones near the top. Just respect them for where they are, treat them as the senior citizens that they are, and just get them to pay for everything in the business. That is how I think you can contribute to solving your failed agile transformation. So, wrapping it up, all these tools, I love them for sure, for all the practices that they have accumulated. I do the same thing. Toolboxes, whether it's Manager 3.0 or whatever, they're just toolboxes full of good ideas from various sources. And we should honor them for that. But they don't solve the innovator's dilemma. All of the ideas, none of them are mine. All of them you can find in books such as these, A Startup Way by Eric Ries, where he describes innovation funnels. Robert Cooper with Winning at Products, innovation funnels all the way with the stages, how the startup world works. Everything is already there. We just have to connect the dots with what others are already doing properly and implement that in the corporate world. It's funny that nature has already solved the innovator's dilemma long ago. We call it species versus organisms, right? Species theoretically can live forever. Crocodiles and parrots have been there for a long time. They do that because they can evolve, because there are individual organisms that start up, scale up, and screw up endlessly in never-ending cycles. We should mimic that in business. So the only way not to be disrupted is to disrupt yourself, which is exactly what Apple is doing with their product line. So go forth and make more startups. I mean, go forth and make more startups. My new book, you can get a discount, by the way, 25% discount on the Startup Scale Up Screw Up with this promo code. So take a picture, share it with each other. It works for 2 weeks. And I invite you, last 30 seconds, I invite you to be part of this conversation, because I'm learning as I go by going to this URL, shift-up-sign up. If you want to do this with me, figuring out how to change those frameworks and models and to recognize the life cycle stages, then please join the conversation and be part of my community. And I hope to see you online. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of the day.